In Hamburg, the opinion seemed to be in several minds concerning the conduct of those responsible for ferrying unregistered teeth to its regional hub, then undertaking the business of auctioning them as legit harvests from Torchwood. But something almost always awoke inside these men. Today's memo undone its rounds, and there was not any shame to be derived in the events to be accentuated. They would consider the most calculated moves that would prey upon the attention of government business of the day in certain respects, so that cartels acting in that capacity would then wind up impressing the delegation that untraveled by sea to the Hamburg court of the day by dint of inciting menace into its span of control and orchestrating chaos. Hello everyone, welcome to my vlog. Today's episode is essentially a continuation of the previous snippet that I had the pleasure of reading before you. And for those of us who are new to this channel, or those of us who are joining for the first time, this is a small extract from my current project. That is book 3 of a series I've been working on for the past few years. So it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome. Now it is noon in Hamburg, Torchwood Quinjo Court 2, file number 2245/2019. Originating court is Tomsk Quinj Court 1. Today's proceedings were going to be conducted in Swiss, the native language of Torchwood, with Bosch translations undertaken so Gilbert Sheaves' virtual audience from Omsk could follow. Present was a 4-judge bench and 2 Quinjo appellants, a Fortuna Dusseldorf footballer called Oliver, and a household profi kickboxer by the name Abilasha Dristi. The latter, that is the kickboxer, had complained of bleeding gums and bad breath. The former, that is the Fortuna Dusseldorf footballer, a submission of certified documents to the bench detailing a fatal case of gum recession. What loomed was a serious court battle, otherwise the Quinjok, against the arrivals, that is the Torchwood Pinion, the respondent to a case involving inside a black market teeth profiteers of unknown identity accused of duping the appellants to undertaking the intercourse of buying teeth replacements, against which a watchdog teeth bank must have declared substandard and confirmed were sourced from a database of Torchwood's ends being shrunk and sold as phantom study specimens to universities across Europe. I call, if I may interrupt your task of the day, said a voice on call from the intox. As a source, as one who has little experience on any shakedown clauses of our constitution, but we fancy no joy in superintending amputation procedures of this magnitude. That was smooth. To this prescribed consultation, the receiver of the call smiled at his gun. Don't, begged the voice on the other end. Please to the ear that caught this one. Mr. Bass was going to shoot 5 more inmates when a call came in from the casualty wards bearing news that the truck ferrying amputated limbs and left for the Gneiss Rock dump site already. By the time the clock struck 2 p.m., the Quinjo court was under recession. Bass had shot 3 more men in the leg but wouldn't beg any pardon, for it served to reboot the ladies who had decided not to sing to his praise. But all things considered, some urgent memo and found its way at the doors to every chamber in confirmation that the teeth harvesting cartel had decided to shrink ahead and harvest 5 teeth for every amputated inmate registered at the wards. For those of us who would like to know, Omsk is a city on the Irtysh River in the vast Russian region of Siberia, with a population of about 1.159 million people as of 2012 and an area of 573 square kilometers. I'll proceed. The only member of this cartel who refused to adapt herself to its constitution was Miss Dunn, Carl's brother. Its boss and tried much on her, including scolding, coaxing, slapping, and sabotage. But one thing troubled Dunn more, that Torchwood made merry at her brother's incarceration, and that if she attached so deep into the affairs of the teeth-harvesting cartel, she'll miss in all degrees the vengeance we were about to execute, much as Torchwood and experience has upon sentencing Carl on irrational odds. By the time the Torchwood Quinjo Court 2 in Hamburg had resumed, Strawman and gouged out Jen's left eye. Seth was about to die when Whitehead hurled him to his shoulders and took the protected stairway to the wet riser. What have you got yourself into? Graham's bullet wood had popped out Miss Dunn's eyes in an inch to the sockets. Should we be worried? She was drenched in sweat. 50 degrees Celsius was enough heat to drown the other 6 in a flood. But there was no hurting in what we did. In any case, the mining rig had harvested 200 million US dollars worth of bitcoins already. The phishing attack we were just about to execute was a plan to increase facilitation to a kitty we had created for my crew in passing. They have confiscated everything sharp already, said Miss Dunn, including the knives we had hidden in the chandelier caps. Not sure how you will dig holes in the concrete. By the way, said Graham, the food conveyor belt is arriving in 2 hours, and don't worry about how holes shall be dug. We can burn holes through the wooden beams instead. I'll be expecting a consignment of wasp spray and 2 blowers. 32 cans of spray, yes, said Whitehead. The blowers arrived at night. The material I'll use to burn holes will smolder and not burn. But if it does, I'll have a PPR pipe fixed so the smoke escapes to the courtyard. The weavers are 3 weeks old now, said Miss Dunn. We need to blow another kilo into the cereals silo by the forenoon tomorrow. And here was the plan. And I'm going to detail the exact plan that John Taylor and his compatriots were supposed to execute so they could easily get away. The plan was, first, we undertake to have the silos infested with weevils. Then, before drought struck, we would install a conveyor belt along which meals would be ferried to associates we needed from the antechamber where they would be prepared. Adjustments to the chamber positions of the crew members that matter were to be implemented just a day before the arrival of the men in Hamburg. That way, those who mattered wouldn't starve. The other who ate well would stand out. They would grow stronger. They would be able to undertake the escape plan while the rest of the members starved to death. I proceed. I turned, crawled back. Then I pushed the plywood panel to the tunnel and peered into the storeroom. The romantic whistling of the gust that had blown over the sleepy hand cook a few minutes ago and turned to a mere whisper. With a grasp that trembled, Mr. Whitehand had by then transported his boss to the intox. A nurse who went Terry here and who spoke fluent Swiss and convinced him to have his options for admission in the casualty ward shut out his considerations. Today's casualty ward is a crimson of blood, she said. It's a surefire of death bursting right through those walls, you won't believe it. In Hamburg, and I'll read the judgment, before the Queen's Court 2, the plaintiff's prejudgment order was ready. For the reasons set forth in the order granting in part of the plaintiff's motion for the final judgments, declared Judge Matthias, it is ordered and adjudged that 1. In violation of Section 5 of the Teeth Disposal Act, one Mr. Seith, a member of the Russian Illuminati Fellows, and Gareth Burrows, who the court establishes as Mr. Bay's boss, shall be transported here and permanently restrained and enjoined from further violating Section 5A of the Racketeering Act by directly or indirectly, in absence of any applicable exemption, A, unless a registration confirmation is in effect as to a tooth, making use of any means or instruments of delivery or correspondence in export commerce, or of the means to sell such a tooth through the use or medium of any prospectus or otherwise. B, unless 1. Jimmy Kanderov of the SAMP establishes that Swish must have contributed to such an ambiguity. Terry never relied on any fishbone diagrams. She was a quick study. 9 times out of 10, she would allow for little team consensus. Hers was instinctual, they claimed. In any case, she earned the reputation of having comprised Gilbert Sheaves' initial crop of females. She had scooped out the remains to Seth's left eye by then, considering a punctured retina, and had disinfected the socket and patched it up. So that marks the end of today's episode. But before I sign off, appreciate 2 things. 1, that John Taylor's escape plans at the Torchwood Penthouse are undertaking. And 2, the 3-judge bench at the Queen's Court 2 in Hamburg has delivered its prejudgment against the opinion. So thank you so much. Till next time. Goodbye.